Stop accepting the bare minimum. Stop settling. It might be time to raise your standards. Hello friends, welcome back. If you're new here, my name's Jillz and I help women step into their power, tap into their divine feminine, and transform their lives. So if that's something you want to do, you should consider subscribing and sticking around. So let's talk about standards and how to raise them and how raising your standards can drastically improve your life. So the standards we set for ourselves determine the bare minimum of what it is we are willing to accept in our life in many different aspects, right? You can have standards when it comes to dating and relationships. You can have standards with your career. You can have standards with friendships. We can have standards with money and wealth. We can have standards with our family and just our overall quality of life and everything. And we will have different standards for different areas of our life. But the problem becomes when those standards are just set way too low and we start accepting the bare minimum and just settling and not truly being happy. But we deserve a life that is rich and full and includes the things we desire. Our standards are so important because they determine how we live our life. They determine what is acceptable to enter our life. Now, this is the biggest problem that I see when it comes to setting your standards and raising your standards. And that is that we set these really high standards, for example, the men in our life, the friends in our life, our family in our life, for things like money and quality of life. Like we set these really high external standards, but we forget to look internally as well and set those same high standards for ourselves as well. Or we just don't want to do this. There's this mindset that's been going around like, I deserve to be treated like a queen. I want the princess treatment. Well, then you have to be a queen yourself. You attract what you are. And this is not just with relationships, this is with everything in life. So often we push all of our high standards on everyone else and everything else and get angry when they don't fit them. But then we refuse to look at our own bad habits or our own bad communication patterns or our own ways that we lash out at people that we love and are unkind. But nothing will ever change in your life until you start changing the internal first. When you want to make a massive change in your life, it starts in here. It starts on the inside. It starts in your inner world. So the point I'm trying to make is that you can't have these massive expectations and standards for the people in your life, the things in your life, the way that you live your life, when you can't even set those same standards for yourself. And this is not about looking down on yourself. It's not about not seeing your worth. It's not about being mean to yourself. It's just about being lovingly honest with yourself and noticing where you might be falling short, where you're not following through on the things you say you're going to do, where you're not being a good friend or a good partner, or just all of the areas in your life where you have really low standards for yourself. It's the whole thing about like, if you want a high value man, then you have to be a high value woman yourself. But it's more than that. If you want good friends in your life, you need to be a good friend. If you want people who are kind and care about you in your life, then you need to be that type of person. If you want people to be honest with you, then you need to be honest with them. And not even just people. If you have a certain standard for your health and how good you feel, then you have to set a certain standard for yourself around taking care of yourself. If you have a certain standard for quality of life and wealth and all of that kind of stuff, then you have to set a certain standard for yourself that enables you to attract that in. It's always a two-way street. So before you start creating all these crazy high standards for all the people in your life, all the things in your life, all of these things outside of you, you have to start by going internal. All change in life first starts with your inner world. It starts with yourself. Now, moving on though, you have to be honest with yourself and look at how you see yourself. Do you even see yourself as worthy? Do you think that you're worthy of nice things and nice people in your life? Do you think that you deserve a comfortable life? You might think like, oh, well, of course I do. But then when you actually really sit with yourself, you realize maybe I don't. When we dig a little bit deeper, sometimes we realize that we're actually a little bit uncomfortable with being comfortable. And when things are always working out for us, and when things are just like going great in our life, all of these great things are happening, all of these high quality people and experiences are entering our life, sometimes it can cause us a little bit, weirdly, a little bit of discomfort. And that's a sign. But let me tell you, you will never reach that amazing life that you want if you can't get comfortable with good things happening in your life. If you can't get comfortable with being comfortable, if you can't be comfortable with good, loving people in your life who treat you well instead of it causing you to be maybe on edge a little bit. If you don't actually think that you are deserving and worthy of that life, of those standards, then your subconscious mind will push them away. A lot of people, especially women, tend to think really low about themselves. But when we have low self-worth, we expect less. We expect to receive less. And your subconscious mind will always prevent you from getting more in your life until you feel that you are worthy of those things. We also teach people, for the most part, how to treat ourselves, how to view ourselves. And so if we view ourselves as just like really low, then other people will too. Now, this topic requires a whole video in itself, and I will do that eventually, but don't discount the simple things like affirmations. Now, personally, I don't really love saying I am worthy because that just doesn't really like do it for me. I don't really feel anything from that. You have to choose your words very carefully and choose words that actually really mean something to you. So the ones that I love are, I deserve to be happy. I value who I am. I am at peace with who I am. I deserve to be loved. I am grateful for who I am. I am proud of who I am. I am worthy of what I want. I love those ones, so say them often, say them multiple times a day. And also just the simple act of becoming aware of your thoughts and limiting beliefs and consciously choosing to change them in your head, that can do wonders. So whenever those negative thoughts kind of pop up or limiting beliefs pop up in your head, maybe it's something like, I'm not good enough. That's a very popular one. When that thought pops up in your head, take a second to pause and then say in your head the story that you want to live. Don't focus on how you don't want to feel. Focus on what you want to feel. I am good enough. I am worthy. I am capable. Whatever. Just every time that negative thought pops up in your head, say, nope, not today, and replace it with a positive one. And if you do this consistently for a long time, it will start to feel more and more natural. Okay, so when it comes to getting really, really clear on your standards though, and raising your standards, you have to start turning your shoulds into musts. So here's what I mean. When something is a should in our life, when we want something to happen in our life, not something that must happen, but something that should happen, something that we want to happen, it doesn't always happen, right? Like when we say, I should do this, I want this, people should treat me this way, I should have this, etc., etc. That's nice, but when something becomes a must in our life, we can't not have it. There is no other way because it is a must for us. All of a sudden, things change. We make sure that it happens. Whatever we believe must happen will happen. And whatever is a must in our life becomes who we are. It becomes a part of our identity. And you guys know, if you've watched my channel for a while, if you've seen a lot of my videos, you know the importance of identity and how it is like basically more important than anything else. We are always doing things in life to validate our current identity, to validate who we are, to keep our identity intact. And as human beings, we hate doing things that go against who we see ourselves as. And so when things become a must, like a true must, they become who we are. They become a part of our identity and they shape who we are and how we show up in the world. Like, let me give you an example. So when I was younger, like late teens, early adults, I did not take care of myself very well. I was quite unhealthy. I did not eat well. I stressed a lot. And, eventually this took a toll on my body and I started to develop a lot of chronic, painful health issues. And I was miserable and I hated how I felt. But when I was in the super dark depths of all of my health problems and feeling like crap, all of a sudden, being healthy and feeling good became a must for me. It wasn't I should be healthy. It wasn't I want to be healthy. It was I must be healthy. I must feel good again because there is just no other way. I was not willing to accept anything else. I reached that rock bottom point where I was literally just not going to accept anything else. And so that's what happened. I figured out a way to make that happen. I changed my lifestyle, I changed my habits, I changed my eating habits, all of that stuff. And I started to shift my identity in the process to the identity of someone who took care of themselves, to someone who lived a healthy lifestyle, to someone who prioritized her health and well-being. Because embracing that must meant changing my behavior and who I saw myself as, who I identified myself as. But the funny thing is that once I shifted my identity to someone who took care of themselves and lived a healthy lifestyle, living that healthy lifestyle was no longer very challenging, because it just became a part of who I was. It became natural to me. It was a part of my identity. Again, because it became a must for me. Our wants don't get met all the time, but our musts do. Our standards do. Because once something becomes a must, you refuse to accept anything else. Like, think about, let's say that you really want an extra $2,000 this month. Just because you want it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. There's a good chance that it might not happen. But let's say that your dog, who you love so much, Piper, still is young and has lots of life to live, has to have a $2,000 surgery, or else they will die. You're going to find a way to get that $2,000. Like, you will make it happen because it moves from a want to a must. It must happen. There is no other way. Thank you. You need to get very clear on your musts and stop picturing them as nice to haves, but start picturing them as your musts. Not everything in life will be a must, but what are your musts? If you're trying to raise your standards with dating and attracting high quality men, men who treat you well and respect you and all that, if that becomes a must for you, it becomes a part of who you are, and everything else is just no longer acceptable. It's no longer a part of your life. It doesn't fit in with your current world and your current identity. Who you are does not accept low quality treatment. And so automatically, when you shift your identity to include this specific must, anything else is just no longer acceptable. I know it sounds so simple to think of our standards as musts and to define our musts and that everything will change, but there is a different energy that you feel when you say, I must have this versus I should have this. Try it. It feels different. Our musts become a part of who we are, and we will always figure out a way to make sure that our musts are met. So once you know what your standards are, and once you know what your musts are, and once you know what you want in life, you have to be able to have the confidence to say no to things that don't fit that. You have to be able to let those things pass you by. You can't live in fear that it's only that or nothing else, that you'll never find another man or never find another job or never find another apartment or another girlfriend, or that you'll never get more money. The world is an abundant place, and if you believe that it's an abundant place, then you will perceive it that way. You will experience it that way. New opportunities will present itself to you. It's okay to set healthy boundaries. It's okay to say no to things that don't fit into your life. You don't just have to smile and nod and agree to everything that comes into your life. However, don't fall into the trap of going in the whole opposite direction and saying no to everything unless it is absolutely perfect. What I mean by this is get clear on your standards, yes, and be firm in that and know who you are and what you stand for. But there is a difference between having good, high quality standards versus being so single focused and obsessed with what you want that you can't see the opportunities that are right in front of your face. Now, if you found that all of these things that I've talked about is hard for you, or you feel like it might be a challenge to really put it into practice into your daily life, here is an incredibly easy way to start shifting your standards right now. This is the simplest, most practical approach, and everyone can do this. All you have to do whenever you are questioning something is ask yourself, if I had a daughter, what would I tell her to do? Or maybe you have a daughter, so in that case, this is really easy. Or you can think about it like, what would I tell my 8-year-old self to do? You can do whatever. Would you want your daughter to date that guy that only ever invites her over to hang out and chill at his place? Would you want your daughter to keep working that job that she hates so much and cries about every night from? Would you want your daughter to keep hanging out with those girls who talk behind her back? When you think about it this way, the answer becomes so crystal clear. Your standards become so crystal clear. This is the easiest way to look at it. It is a simple way to look at our decisions, our standards, objectively. We can get out of our own head and get out of our own emotions and just see it as it is. And if you wouldn't want your daughter to accept it, then there you go. That's your answer. You shouldn't either. Then all you have to do is act in line with that. Let me know what you thought of this video. Share them in the comments below. I always love to read them. And if you enjoyed this video, I highly, highly recommend you go check out this video, how to become the woman of your dreams, that has really good, actionable, practical tips for you in there. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like, share it with a friend, say hi in the comments, and thank you guys so much for watching. I always appreciate you, and I will see you next time.